Hello world, this is Lockpicking Dev. Today I'm doing a review over the LockpickPros Carbon Fiber Special. And to start off, these were really interesting to review. Yeah, this really interesting set. The carbon fiber handles was something I was very interested in, being a handle person myself. You all know that. So I was very interested in reviewing this. So full transparency before I start, I was giving this set for free to do a review. So that is something to note. So anyways, here we go. We'll start with the turning tools. So over here, I will actually start with the criticism. I do not like these types of flat turning tools right here. These ones right here. And the reason being is these are typically used for bottom of the keyway. And they work okay. You can make them work, I guess is what I'm saying. However, they take up a lot of the keyway. And I'll show you here. I'll use the longer edge just so it stays in for the camera here. They do take up a lot of the keyway, and you can see that it even actually moves and turns and takes up the space where your pick should be underneath the pins right there. So I'm not a fan of these turning tools, these bottom of the keyway turning tools specifically. I can even show you with a, is that a Schlage keyway? No, that was not. Let's show a Schlage keyway as well, because I did use this set on a lot of these. So even on a Schlage keyway, you can see that when I put it in, it moves over. It kind of goes underneath the pins a little bit, and it takes up space to where our turning tool, or sorry, our pick will be. So what I did actually when I used the rake, I used the hell out of this rake, as I push it the opposite way. So if I'm turning counterclockwise on a lock that can go counterclockwise, you see I have room there. So that's what I did when I was using the rake here and testing that out. So that would be my first concern, or I would say criticism. I'm just not a fan of these turning tools. What did work for me better was one of these classic style, just windshield wiper blade ones. And that worked better for me for bottom of the keyway, for, this type of lock, the Schlage lock, and for trying out the Snowman pick later on wafer locks as well. The other turning tools here, they did work well. I like them. You can see that we have two styles here. So put them up next to each other. Oops, sorry. Touch the lens there. Hopefully I didn't smudge it. There we go. Two styles there. You see that one has a little lip on it and one does not. So that one has that little lip for that extra little catch on it. And the difference that does make is nothing more than the length of it. So if I put them next to each other, you can see. Oh, I was pretty sure one was just a little bit longer. Yeah, you can see that the one with the lip on it, the gripping notch on it is just a little bit longer. Or no, sorry, I'm not thinking correctly. This one is just a little bit longer without the notch than the one with the notch on it. So that is the difference between those two. One has a notch and one is just a little bit longer. Let's see. There is note that it is pretty much, though, the same depth as a normal turning tool. So if I, there we go. If I put one, this is a 50,000, I think, sparrows behind it. Is this one with the notch goes about the same depth as a normal one, though it's just shaped different. You can see that it's a little bit more shallow going in that way, whereas the other ones, the notch goes out just a little bit more, but it still goes the same depth as those. So I did want to point that out. To show the depth of the turning tools, I pulled out an American lock. So our top of the keyways right here, here's the one with the notch in it. So that's the short end. See, it does pretty good. And you can see my finger wasn't on there all the way, so now I'm an extra pressure. So it's actually holding pretty good. The length is good, it's holding well. I let that fall. That was not the turning tool. Here's the one with the flat end, not the notch on it. So I put that in. I think the flat one's just a little bit shorter. I don't remember. Oh, no, there we go. Forget which one's shorter, but I did mention that. And yeah, so it's plenty long to fit in these as well. And I was curious about that because the length of the tips on these things, the little nub, is longer compared to ones you're seeing. So here's ones you're seeing from other markets. This is like a sparrow's one that has a teeth. You can see that the little tip on that up here that is longer on these ones down there. So I wanted to test that and show you that they do work just fine. In their advertisements, they do show using the top of the keyway turning tool as a bottom of the keyway. So they'll put the little lip up there in the bottom like that and use it like that. And it can work. So you can see that it does make it turn, it does work, and it does get opens that way. However, this is not the best way of doing bottom of the keyway turning tool. The reason being is if we look at one of these turning tools, it has 4 edges on it at that corner there, there, and there. Even though they're still a little bit smoothed off from finishing off the manufacturing process, when you add the pressure going that direction, when you're adding the pressure going that direction, this bottom right hand edge is still going to grind into the lock body a little bit. So that's why I say still this type of turning tool, the windshield wiper, is a little bit better, definitely better, because the sides are definitely more smooth and rounded, and it's not quite as edged, and it fits better because this one's a little bit wider. I'll show you also how the top of the keyway turning tool will fit in like a schleg. So I said I was picking a lot of schlegs. If I tried using this for that, it would not work. So if I stuck it in the bottom, let me get that focus there. So if I stuck that in the bottom right there, it would just turn around and it would not work. It would be like that and just literally would not work. So these aren't quite bottom of the keyway turning tools. So something to keep in mind. This can work on occasion on some locks, like I just showed you on the plastic one, but it typically will not work. One last thing to notice about the turning tools, and this is actually a criticism as well, is when I got them, I was expecting, there are different thicknesses, which is very appreciated, and I actually really like having multiples of the same ones. By happenstance, this actually made me really happy because 40 thousandths, these two styles right here with the top of the keyway turners right here, 40 thousandths, and this bottom of the keyway, both of them are 30 thousandths. And that's the criticism. I would really like if I had a 30 thousandths and 40 thousandths of each style. And that's kind of what I was expecting, but that's not what I got. So these are both 30 thousandths, and these are all 40 thousandths right here. And when I say I was kind of, pleasantly surprised and happy about it myself, specifically because I use 40 thousandths a lot, so I'm going to use the hell out of these. But if I was buying a set, I would like a 30 thousandths and a 40 thousandths of each one. And I can confirm that even with the second set, because I did get 2, the second one by happenstance, that was a mistake. The second one also had the same thing where there was both 40 and then both 30 right here. Anyways, that is enough about the turning tools. The top of the keyway ones work great. The bottom of the keyway, I'd pick something different than those personally. The bottom of the keyway did work. I'll have to say that it did work because, like I said, I did rake. I used the set on about 21 schlegs that are completely used, and I tried to get those open schleg kicks like this, so SE4s. So those are 6 pins. So I put these things to work. Our picks now. Our lock, the only thing to note about the lock is, yes, it's a clear plastic lock. These are good for seeing how a lock works on the inside. Let's zoom in. These are good for seeing how a lock works on the inside, and that's it. So you see how the pins line up at the shear open. When you take the key out, the pins drop from the drivers, or drop from the Bible back down into our plug here. That's what this lock's good for. It's good for seeing how it works. It's not good for practicing on. That's not a criticism of this pick set. That is just something that is included in all pick sets. It's just knowledge for you, the user. So when you get one of these, sure, it's helpful. Get another lock to practice with it. We'll just move that out of the way now. The case is really cool. I'll just do that really quick so I have more room on the screen here. The case is really cool. It's very similar to the let's see, the multi-pick style case, to where, here we go, if I take the multi-pick style case, so actually very similar to the multi-pick style case here, like that, and it does have the magnet as well. The multi-pick style case is just a little bit different. Both have the magnets though, so it does close, it is magnetized, so that's actually pretty nice. And the magnetized version of this too actually is similar to the Echelon case, this big Echelon case that's really magnetized and sticks to stuff. However, this one is just a little short on the magnetization to stick to stuff. I don't think that was their goal, but it is cool to see that it was almost did stick to stuff just like the other case there. But the inside of it's very nice, very well stitched right here. The picks slide in and out nicely. It is made with durable material, so that's really nice. And it looks really cool. It is a nice looking case. So that's the case. We'll move on to our picks now. For our picks, get those all lined up there. For our picks here, we have a variety of profiles, and I will start from the left going over. We have the snowman, half diamond, the club, the double, like the double peak, quad rake, quint rake, katana is what they call this one, the Euro hook right here, the short hook, and they call this one an offset hybrid. I would call this a medium to high hook. So I got a variety of profiles here. The ones that I do not like, I kind of put these in order. Not a fan of these three right here. The diamond and the snowman are usable. My biggest dislike is this one that they call the club pick. I've seen this one before, and I've honestly seen it in more cheap Chinese pick sets, and it looks just kind of like a really aggressive fat hook. And what's weird about this one, and this particular pick in general, it's a weird profile. It's fat on the end of profile, so it's not like a hook where it kind of slims out on the end. And the shaft is abnormally thin at the tip here compared to all the rest of the picks, and abnormally thin compared to other picks as well. So if I compare it to the echelon, you can see that even then, that's thinner than up there. And the echelon's on par with multi-pick as well. And so if I put the Sparrow's break right there, you can see it's thinner than everything else. So that's going to limit the lifespan of this particular club pick right here. So I'm not a fan of the club pick. That's what I would say there. I would exclude that from the set. That is the one pick I would just absolutely exclude from the set. The snowman does work. I did test it out on a safe, little safe of mine. So here we have a wafer lock on a Century safe. And here's the bottom of the keyway turner. You can see how much space that takes up in the keyway. So it's really hard to get our snowman pick in. So yeah, right there. That makes it really difficult. So what I had to do is use the short end like that, and try to get in around the bottom there and rake it that way. And not successful there. Let's see if I can hit the top. It's a 20 thousandths. Oh, I might get it. There we go. There we go. So it does work. The reason why it did work is because the pick is 20 thousandths and this turning tool is 30 thousandths. So it did work, and we did get our open there. So it's possible, however, you can see that with the turning tool there, it takes up a lot of space in our keyway, and it can make it difficult to get our snowman pick in. So snowman pick does work. It does work on wafer locks, but my feedback again would be, let's get another turning tool that's similar to these wiper blade like ones right here, because these, you can see it just kind of fits in perfectly, and you go at the top. There we go. There's our open. There we go. So these fit much better. The windshield wiper blade types fit much better. Alright, so you can see that snowman pick is usable. However, a different turning tool is a little kind of necessary for that to get it to work. I'm not a fan of snowman pick myself. You can use the diamond to do just as well, or any of these other picks to kind of rake a wafer lock myself. So if you want a wafer lock pick to have in your set, snowman pick is something alright to have. We do have the diamond pick here. I've always never been a fan of diamonds myself. I'm not going to say it's a criticism here. I just haven't been a fan of diamonds. The reason why I'm not personally a fan of diamonds is because when you lift them, we're going to pay attention to this flat edge on that end right there. The more I lift it, the more that flat edge starts to come in contact with the pins. So right here, it's just the tip of the diamond. The more I lift it, lever off the keyway there, the more that flat edge is starting to come in contact with the other pins. So that flat edge might be hitting the pin behind or the pin in front of it. That's just a lot of surface area to me, so that's why I'm not a fan of it. However, these are very useful picks, and people are very successful with them. So again, not a criticism. These are good for doing like a very quick, rake, really quick rake, and then moving to single pin picking. That's what these are for. And people do have a lot of success with these. There's a lot of people that love them, and there's other people that are just, okay, why is that there? But again, that wouldn't be a criticism. So there is the half diamond there. The rakes work all right. I wouldn't even say all right. The rakes work because they're rakes. They're shaped like rakes. There is some oddity about the rakes though. So the one that you can see, this one is a little bit warped at the top there. I used the hell out of the quint rake. The quint rake works pretty good, and it opens stuff. The oddness I say about these though is when you compare them to the other rakes that are out there. So if I compare it to, let's take out the echelon rakes because these are the specs I'm looking for here. So if I compare the quad rake right here to the quad rake of the other kits, you can see that it is just really, it's not the same. It's a quad for sure. It's a quad rake, but it's much longer, and the humps there are more spaced out. And I mean, it works. It's a rake. The difference here compared to the other quad rakes like these are a little bit more spaced for the pins, whereas this one is spaced to be, spaced, I guess. I'm not sure how to describe it. With this particular quad rake as well, I'm not a fan of this particular quad rake because it's also really big going this way. So the width, if I compare it again, if I lay them on top of each other, try to do that right there, you can see that the width going this way is much taller of a pick, so it takes up much more of the keyway. And so what I mean by that is if you have your lock right here, I'll get the focus just a second, right there, you can see that this, when we're going in, you can see how much that hump almost hits the very top of it. It really takes up that keyway right there. In fact, when I'm in and pulling it back out, it's almost, sorry about that focus. There we go. You want to pull it in and out right there. You see it's almost hitting the very top of the keyway. So it's a very tall rake. It is big compared to most rakes out there. So I didn't get much use out of that particular rake. And let me compare it to the double here. The double is shorter. Okay, that's good to see. I didn't test the double out, to be completely honest. I did not test the double out. The double looks to be the same height going that way as the quint rake here. The quint rake, if we compare it to the other style quint rakes as well, same situation. So the peaks are a little off. So that doesn't quite line up the pins as the same as these types of rakes right here. So these are going to perform a little bit better. But this is a quint rake and it will work. The height is much better. It fits in the keyway just fine. And this is what I use the hell out of. I rake the hell out of everything with this. So honestly, I'm not sure if this lock open. This is one I haven't raked open yet. I set it to the side to mess with later. Oh shit, there we go. That was happenstance, promise. I'm actually happy about that. I gotta gut that now, move that to the side. But yeah, so the rake performs, and you can see, if I get it on the black here, it is only just very slightly warped. I put it through a lot of runs with 21 of those kick locks there, and for those 21 kick locks, a lot of them had their tail pieces, their caps were a little too tight on, so I was using a lot of force and putting a lot of wear and a lot of extra force in my rake here. So that little bit of warping there is, I'm not too surprised about it. I will talk more about the metal specifically here shortly. We'll move on to the other picks. We have what they call the katana, the Euro hook, the short hook, and what they're calling their offset hybrid. I'm going to call it a medium hook for this video. I'll try to also call it the offset hybrid so it's on par with what they're calling it. The katana, it's like a reach, just kind of very similar to a Covert Instruments kind of style reach right there. It is a little bit wider. That is going to be my feedback throughout the entire video for all the picks. All the shafts are relatively wide, but I'll do a little bit better comparison. There's the Euro hook, specifically the Euro hook right here, unless this is what they're calling the Euro hook, little bug. Unless I have them mixed up. Either way, both of them, the shaft is too thick to be considered a Euro hook because European locks are really curvy typically and hard to get into. And I'll give you an example of that. Let's see, I have one right here. So here's a great example right here. European locks have that really curvy keyway right there. So when it comes to a really thick shaft like this, not even sticking it in, you can see how much that keyway is going to take up immediately. And so even getting it in that far, it's going to, trying to get in through the beginning is a little tough even then. And when I do get it in, you can see it takes up a lot of keyway there. Oh, focus. There we go. See, it takes up a lot of keyway just because that really thick shaft. So again, when I get it up to a ledge that I can work with, that's partially the way in. So it's a really thick shaft for a Euro hook is my feedback there. It is a usable pick. It is not too thick to not be usable. When it's specifically on, I would say American keyways, that's my feedback would say on these. These are very good pick set for American style keyways because they're pretty wide open like the Schleg. I did use the short hook here quite often, and the bigger hook here, what they're calling their offset hybrid here quite a bit. So when I wasn't raking, I was using both of these picks, and they did perform well. What makes all of these perform a little bit better than I expected, because again, my feedback is the thickness of the shafts, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. And it's not horrible. What made them perform better than I expected is that they're all 20 thousandths of an inch in thickness metal. So what I mean by that is the thickness there. So the 20 thousandths of the inch thickness there. So they do go through the keyways quite well, actually, to go, they fit quite well since they're thin enough for that. With the thickness of the shafts, this is the thing I noticed the most. And I mentioned earlier, it's not horrible, but it is something noticeable. This one right here, the Euro hook is very thick. I can compare it though to a southward medium hook, and you can see that it is almost comparable. Let me show you here. So if I put them to the top, the shaft is really thick, but if I compare it to like a southward medium hook, the bottom, it's kind of comparable. The southward medium hook, this is not the slimline one. It's just a little bit thinner. It's on top of the other one, so it's hard to see on, with your eyes. It's on top of the other one, but it's just a tad bit thinner than the LockpickPros one. So that is my criticism. It's kind of thick because this type of pick to me is just, the southward non-slimline is just too thick to me. And though that's not all the picks, the criticism here is the thickness and the inconsistency. So I noted that the club pick, let me zoom back out here. I noted that the club pick over here is too thin at the top shaft here. This one's really thick, and the rest are kind of on par. So these are okay. Let me compare and show you them. They're just a little bit thicker than a multi-pick and Covert Instruments. So there we go. If I can compare, it's just a little bit thicker. You can kind of see it around the edges. It's a little bit thicker than the Covert Instruments and multi-pick, and that's the same with Sparrows as well. Sparrows is about on par. Very close. I wouldn't say quite on par, because I want to watch more words. I haven't actually measured it, but very close to multi-pick and Covert Instruments. Width of the shaft going that way. So that is something about the picks, is the inconsistency and the shaft with the heights of these shafts going that way. However, again, the 20 thousandths metal makes these very usable, and I was very happy about that. That's what surprised me and made this pick set. Actually, I sat down and picked almost all my kicks with this pick set specifically because it was usable. I didn't give up. So it's definitely usable. The 20,000s is awesome. The metal, they advertise the metal as being 200,000 plus PSI stainless steel. I'm not sure exactly what type of metal it is. It's not listed on the site, so I'm not sure if it's 401 full hard. It's not a high yield, I don't believe. I didn't pull up Christina Palmer's site to check out the ratings of each type of steel to show you. But you can check that there yourself on Elvencraft. Yeah, so that is the overall picks themselves. The handles, I did enjoy the handles. They are actually a little bit surprisingly nice to me as well. So the handles, they look cool. Focus there. They do look cool. That carbon fiber looks nice. It is super cool. It is nice. They're thin handles, just like the other, just like your typical metal ones right there, your metal laminated handles on there. So they're thin just like that. I do have a little flex. They advertised a little bit of flex there, so I'll show you the flex. There's the flex. I like that there's not a whole lot of flex though. I have worked with picks that had a little bit more flex than this. So I do like, I'm not a fan of flexible picks myself. I do like them completely stiff personally, and I'm not a fan of thin ones. But for thin handles, because a lot of people pick with these, there's nothing wrong with these types of handles. For these types of handles, they're nice. For these types of thin handles, they're really nice. They look cool, and the flex for the carbon fiber to me is not too much, but just enough. That way, if you're someone that likes that flex because you grip hard and you like the flex of your hand a little bit, that works out pretty well for you. So I would say that is something cool about this set. And they kind of showed that off the bat. The carbon fiber handles are pretty damn cool. They look nice, they're pretty, and they kind of go with the case here as well. They just really look good. Before I go, I did want to point out one other thing is that the Pixie comes slightly magnetized because of the case, ever so slightly. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, taking my metal ruler there, and you can see the double rake and this turning tool over there is slightly magnetized. So something to keep in mind, that's if that bothers you. Some people it does. They're ever so slightly magnetized, so it's not going to affect your picking. Just something to point out. Overall, my thoughts on the pick set, good pick set. Yeah, good pick set. I think it's all right. I would take the feedback of this quad rig right here is just too tall, too big, and this club pick right here, I'd swap that out with something else personally myself. I would also make sure that I have each thickness of turning tool, so a 30 and a 40 of each style, because we have both of these are 30, both of these are 40, and both of these are 40. You use, as a lockpicker, you'll use 40,000s more than anything, so this is really nice to have a lot of 40,000s now. I'm really happy with this. But you, as a new picker, you'd kind of want both thickness of each of these, so something to note there. Overall, otherwise, the handles, the carbon fiber is super cool. It's very pretty. It's nice. It's a nice alternative to steel. If you have an allergy to steel, it's something that LockpickPros does point out, is if you have an allergy to steel, this is a good alternative to that. Some people do have allergies to metal, so that is a thing. They look very pretty. You definitely got something going on there, and the flex isn't too much for me. So for a thin handle, I do really like these handles, and this set's pretty good set. I also really like the case. If there's any way you can add extra magnetism, make these magnets a little bit stronger so it sticks to stuff, because it almost did when I first got it. I stuck it to something, I swore it stuck for a minute, and I was like, oh cool. Then after that I haven't got it to work again, even without the picks out of it. But if there's any way you can make the magnet stronger, that would be super cool as well, because yeah, it's just, that's a nice case as well. I think the whole thing looks nice. I love black, and that's just really nice. So there's my review on this. The one thing I would do is take the metals. It is, again, rated 200,000 PSI stainless steel. I don't know what type of steel it is, whether it's full hard, it's not high yield. Take that rating of 200,000, look that up, probably on Christina Palmer's website, compare that to the other steels that are out there, and take your judgment from there. I can say that, again, I raked with this rake quite a bit, and it performed all right. It does have a little warping for it, but for the old locks I did, it did perform all right. So I would say that this does definitely perform with other beginner pick sets out there that are, of the same rated steel. So, yeah, there you go. There's my feedback. This is the LockpickPros Carbon Fiber Special. Alright, everyone. Thanks for watching.